Is there anything we're forgetting about? The stream is starting up. We're only at 480p this time, so hopefully if there's any hiccups, it won't be as bad as it was before. A boom, 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 a doom, doom, doom. All right, there's the giveaway business. You're going to want to pick a winner.
Yeah, I know.
And then a winner later on, so we'll want to start out with a winner almost immediately. Yo, who was here, yo? All right, we're just we're getting everything together here. Bear with us. Somebody mentioned the chat room on the free site, wanting to get something new. I couldn't agree more. I can't stand IRC chats, but that one's there because we feel like obligated to keep it there. Oops.
How do I?
What do you have that running? Right there. See the thing with the play button? There you go. Atta girl. So yeah, we started that IRC chat room, which kind of exists outside of our website. I mean, if we took it off the website, it would still be there. But there are a lot of people who use it, who like it, and I feel a little bit bad about taking it away. So we'll have to talk to them and see. Ultimately, I think there are better chat solutions out there, especially now like the one we use on the Guild. When you say that one's overall better,
I love it.
are there any disadvantages to it that we don't know about? It's such a cleaner interface. It's so much nicer. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, you're right. Whoever mentioned that. Did you say Joe? Joseph?
Yeah.
Mensch? Said so, and I could not agree more. All right, you want to do a live show?
Sure.
Let's do a live show. We got to get used to this new spreadsheet. All right, we can get started. Everything looks good? Okay. Well, hello there. This is Nicole.
Hi.
She's my wife. Here, you can sit on my left side. All right, here we go. So my name's Mark. This is my wife, Nicole, and we're from thewoodwhisperer.com. And this is our monthly live show. First Friday of every month, we do a little live show with demonstration and just whatever's going on, announcements that we have to make, giveaway stuff, little things like that. So it's a lot of fun. We have a blast.
We've been keeping up with it.
Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
Well, we skipped January for family reasons, but yeah, we've been keeping up with it. This is like, it's like a thing now. So thank you to everybody who shows up, and it's good, it's definitely good times. Couple things before we get to the giveaway. Did you pick a winner already?
Yes.
So here's the deal. We like to give stuff away during these events, and we've got a couple DVDs here, and I haven't actually seen these myself. I do have copies that I'm going to watch. But Bill Anderson looks to be a nice chap. Look at that guy. That's the kind of guy you want to learn woodworking from, not some chump like me. He says,
looks a little like Jonathan Strickland. Do you know Jonathan Strickland? Yeah, never mind. He does a podcast.
yeah, no one else knows who he is either.
There might be one person out there.
Choosing, refurbishing, and using joinery hand planes with Bill, and building a traditional 18th century joiner plane. Watch out, Scott. He's coming for you. So yeah, great DVD. So we're going to give one away now. We'll give one away later in the show. And who's our lucky winner right now?
Who gave these to us? Do you remember?
Pop Woodworking.
No. Oh, you don't remember. He didn't write it down.
Oh, someone like an independent person? I thought.
No, like the guy who actually made these.
Oh, well, Bill Anderson.
No, it wasn't Bill.
I'm
sorry. I'll look it up.
Yeah,
when we talk about it.
I don't know about it.
All right. So we'll give
I know
away
nothing.
one right now.
What do I know? I just work here.
I'm going to give it away to Joseph Mensch because that was a great suggestion.
Okay. Joseph, you win.
Yay!
Congratulations.
I'll contact you.
I'm going to give him the choosing, refurbishing, and using joinery hand planes because I know that Joe would enjoy that. I don't know. I'm guessing. Let's put that back here.
Yeah.
So we got one more to win later on. Yeah, let's see. Oh, you know what I should mention, just routinely, if you want to communicate with us and send us a message, you can do that right on the Wood Whisperer page. Go to thewoodwhisperer.com/live. There's a crappy chat room there that you can use.
It's not that bad.
And you can also go to the YouTube channel, and there's a little thing on the side of the thing that you could do and do things with. Yeah. But you can leave a comment there, and Nicole will read it. And if you have a question at any time during this thing, just go ahead and throw a question in there. Nicole will yell it out, and I'll do my best to answer it.
I'm not going to yell it out. I'm going to send it to you.
You should yell it. It would be funnier. And I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
So let's get into the giveaway announcements, the big giveaways.
Yay.
Last month, there was a Powermatic. I love when the Powermatic stuff is up. A Powermatic PM1000 Tablesaw. So how do we do with that? Who won?
The winner is, is it Jarad?
Jarad.
Yeah, Jarad P from Utah. So
Yeah.
I know there were a few Jarad P's out there that kind of had a mini heart attack, and then they're like, I'm not from Utah.
Yeah.
So we've already contacted Jarad. So even if you are a Jarad P from Utah,
Yeah.
it's not you. I've already talked to Jarad. So,
Okay. So
he's
Jared's a
winner.
happy boy.
He's very, very happy.
Speaking of Powermatic, there is a Powermatic and Jet sale going on. So if you're looking to pick up some gear until March 9th, 15% off machines and accessories. So you cannot beat that because these things ain't cheap.
This Sunday.
This Sunday.
And it's done.
And then it's done. And then until next
Until
year.
the next one.
All right. So this month's giveaway, by the way, you can go to thewoodwhisperer.com/giveaway to find out about this stuff. This month's giveaway is this little beauty here. That is Festool's HL850 planer plus their rustic head.
There, if you go to thewoodwhisperer.com/giveaway, you'll see a really cool video featuring Jory
Oh, from Framework.
from Framework.
Yeah.
He does a really good review of it.
You know, some people think I have a rustic head. Like not very sophisticated and a little rough around the edges. I think so too.
Okay.
This is a very interesting planer. Now, I'll confess I have one and I haven't used it. Handheld power planers are something that I haven't really worked into my workflow. So I have to watch the video with Jory and see what he does because I know he does sort of a decorative effect with it.
And there's different
Different
kinds
heads.
Of, yeah, different heads.
So the rustic head, I'm sure, is what gives you that sort of hand-planed look. But yeah, so there are uses for it. It's just something that doesn't come up in my work very often.
Well, and we should say
We should.
it's only for the U.S. and Canada.
Yes.
You're looking at our business right here.
This is our business.
This is our business. Just be a mark.
Not Joe's business. It's my business.
And the giveaway laws outside of the United States and Canada are crazy complex. Like I looked at adding Australia and it just blew my mind the amount of work that we just don't have the ability. It's not about shipping.
It's not about shipping, and it isn't because we love you. This isn't a conspiracy against people outside of America.
No.
The thing is, the internet has made us forget just how strong borders can be.
Yeah.
There's a lot of differences between countries. It's just on the internet we seem to think it's all ubiquitous. The reality is laws and
Coca-Cola just really.
Yeah, Coca-Cola screwed us over on this one. But it does it puts a liability risk there that we don't want to assume. So we still love you, international folks, but this is just the way it is. So
Hi,
don't.
Belgium.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Belgium. Someone said to say hi, Belgium, so that they can see this tomorrow and be excited. Hello, Belgium, the entire country.
All right, so
Okay.
that's what I have to say about
Well,
that.
thank you, Nicole.
Next month, another giveaway.
Another great giveaway.
Bye.
She really is on fire with these things. All right, so let's jump right into some news and announcements. We do have a new advertiser on the show, but it's not a new company. We've been working with MicroJig in some fashion for a long time now, and you guys probably know them because they sponsor a lot of YouTube shows these days. But we're kind of like the chick at the prom that you just can't get. It takes a while. You got to wine and dine us for a little bit. But yeah, we're finally working with MicroJig. Great stuff. You guys probably know about the gripper, a couple of their other products, but I did a few videos, and I'll put the links in the show notes to these back in like 2011, showing the gripper and the MJ splitter, which is a great way to add a splitter and add some safety to a table saw that doesn't already have a riving knife or a splitter. So that's good stuff. All right. There's a Guild DVD sale going on right now. I don't know if you knew that, but 50% off all of our Guild DVDs. So go to TWWstore.com and you can take advantage of that sale. And also, if you've been on Facebook, you probably saw I mentioned this. Right now is really the best time to pick up a Guild membership if you're going to do it. The value, the actual like individual value of the next 3 projects is going to be over $300. So a $129 membership will actually get you all 3 of those projects. It's this year in particular is massive. So we're doing, I'll show it to you later, but I've got the nightstand behind me, a chest of drawers, and in May we're going to be doing the sculpted rocking chair. And then after that, in September, we're going to be doing a gaming table. So it's like a dining room table that also doubles as a gaming surface. So that's going to be a really fun project, but it's just there's so much being packed into this year. It's a lot of monetary value, but we're not going to raise the price of the yearly membership, right? So $129 gets you all that stuff, so you should check it out. Now, quick announcement about a show. You probably, if you've watched TWW Live, you've seen me mention Highland Woodworker. It's a great internet, TV-style internet show. I absolutely love it. I can't say enough good things about it. They have episode 17, just recently came out. It's they focus on a bunch of different things, but frontier woodworking is one of the topics where they actually show how things were done way back when. Looks like a lot of work to me. And they also feature Alf Sharp and a gentleman named Michael Gilmartin, and really great stuff. Now, here's the most interesting thing I took away from this video. If you watch Charles Brock, the host, next to Alf Sharp. Now, I've heard of Alf Sharp. I follow him on Facebook, and I've never actually seen him in person. This guy is massive. I'm just impressed with it. I'm not even going to talk about woodworking. I'm just going to talk about the fact that this guy is huge. So he's standing next to...
Like Andre.
He's a little Andre the Giant-ish in stature. The man is massive, and yet he has such a delicate touch with wood. How is that possible? And this is the great thing. It's hard to see in that picture, but he's holding a Veritas large shoulder plane. In his massive hands, right, that I actually had to stop it and do a double take, because look at it in my hands. I look like I've got baby hands on this thing, right? He looks like he's holding the medium shoulder plane, and look at this. This is what he's holding, in case you didn't see it the first time. What? Right? It's ridiculous. So anyway, not only a great woodworker, but a very large individual. And it looks like he could snap my neck in about 2 seconds. Especially, I probably shouldn't talk about him.
Tell him that you like him.
But yeah, I actually follow him on Facebook, and he's a very intelligent man and does some great work. So I'd love to meet him someday. All right, what do we got next? Let's look at a viewer project. So this month, we had a great one. You guys may or may not know that I'm a drummer, and I'm just not very good at it. I don't get to do it that often either. But this guy, Mark, coincidentally, his name is spelled M-A-R-C, built a miniature drum kit. Now this thing stands about 14 inches high. And look at this thing. That's just a detail put into it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Here's what Mark says about it. Being a woodworker / wood turner and a drummer, I decided to challenge myself by making a mini drum set. The drum set consists of 609 individually made pieces standing 14 inches tall on the stage. As for the wood species, I used walnut for the drum shells and maple for all the hardware, rims, stands, etc. Ebony is sprinkled throughout the kit. The cymbals are made of yellow heart and can be removed from their stands for transport. Some pieces of the drum set are maple dyed black. The stage is all Babinga except for the little maple spindle near the bottom center. What? That's just amazing, isn't it? So really well done there, Mark. Fantastic job. By the way, if you want to submit a project, you can do that at thewoodwhisperer.com/submit. Make that nice and easy for you. We can't post everything that we have sent to us, unfortunately, but we do our best to filter them and get as many as we can posted on the site. Pardon me, we live in Arizona, it's very dry. I need a drink. All right, it's time to gear up, folks. I'm going to show you a couple of products you might be interested in, and Nicole,
Yes.
my dear,
Yes.
I need you on the camera.
Okay.
This is like a partial gear up / demo. Okay. So we tend to get new products from various companies, and it's just stuff I like to show you because I think you might be interested in it. What I have today is a finishing system. This is not actually new. You might recognize the label. Anyone who's been into woodworking for a while will notice tried and true finishes. All right, tried and true. Let me see if I got the website here. triedandtruewoodfinish.com. These are oil finishes. Now, what's special about these? They are no VOC. There are no metallic dryers added, and there are no solvents. So these are completely food safe, completely natural, very green finish. And if you're into making furniture for other people and perhaps they're very environmentally conscious. For instance, the customer I'm making this stuff for is that way. He doesn't like any finishes that have dryers in them. He doesn't like the chemicals. So finishes like this are fantastic. So what's in these 3 cans? Well, basically, if you've applied finishes before it's going to be very similar in application to boiled linseed oil or pure tongue oil. All right, so it's got that pure oil consistency to it. You basically rub in a very light coat, wipe off the excess after it soaks in for a while, and you could apply multiple coats. And they've got 3 variations. One is called their original wood finish. This one actually has the linseed oil and beeswax. They've got a varnish oil, which has some resin in it for extra protection. And then they have a Danish oil finish, which is just the polymerized linseed oil. All right, so you could learn more about the products on their website. They've got a really nice fleshed out Q&A. But what I thought I'd do is apply a little bit to my pizza peel. The reason is, if I remember correctly, this is the finish I used on it, and it's due for a new coat. So I figured, why the heck not? Let's take this bad boy out and put a little more finish on it. All right, let's do it. And what I'm going to use here is the natural resin one. This is the varnish oil, because you have a little bit more scratch resistance with the varnish oil. Now, you can actually use these in combination, but the key is once you use the original finish, the one that has the beeswax, you really can't use anything but that, because the other ones will have trouble drying on top of a waxed surface or surface that has finish that contains wax. All right, so we'll go over the application method really quick, wipe off the excess, and let this guy dry, and then we can move on to the next thing. You could bring the camera down and bring it close. Just get the whole pizza peel in the shot. By the way, if you've seen this video, this thing has held up really well. I've got a little bit of burning back here because this is the part that makes contact with the hot stone, so it kind of scrapes across there. But ultimately, it's in really good shape, and I cannot complain. But it is due for a new coat of finish. So I basically gave it a light sanding with 320 grit to get it ready for this. And you can use a clean cotton rag. I'm just going to use a shop towel because I'm lazy and this was close. All right, so the finish in here, you can see, just kind of looks like oil, because that's what it is. Yeah, a little bit of oil here. All right, so I'm just going to put a little bit on the rag there, and I like to get aggressive with it because I want to spread it thin. By putting a lot of pressure down, you can make sure you're really pushing it down into the pores. Now, on their FAQ, they say you don't want to thin it. If you thin it and you add mineral spirits or paint thinner, you're now adding in all those nasty, nasty chemicals that they intentionally left out. So you sort of defeat the purpose there. You could warm it, which will make it a little bit looser, so you could spread it a little easier, but they actually recommend not warming it either. They said it flows out just fine at room temperature, and it's formulated to do just that. So basically, right out of the can. Shelf life on this stuff is supposed to be indefinite as long as you keep a lid on there. And I'll only do one side of this. This could get boring after a while. Watch me finish the whole thing.
It smells nice.
Yeah, it's got a really pleasant smell. They say that you don't need gloves because it's just oil. There's really nothing in there that can hurt you. It's food safe, so just like this pizza peel, we'll be contacting food at some point. You can use it on cutting boards if you want to. If you've been looking for a really good cutting board finish, this is one to consider because it is an oil that dries, unlike mineral oil, which does not dry. You can use this on children's toys. A lot of people are very concerned about film finishes and volatile compounds in their kids' toy finish. So why not use one that doesn't have any to begin with? All right, so here's what I would normally do. I would rub it in, let that sit for, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. The instructions, some of them say to let it sit for an hour, so it just depends on which one you're using. But I'd let it soak in pretty good. I'd come back with a nice clean and dry rag, or you could just use a dry portion of this one and just rub any of that excess out. And depending on the species, you may need to check every couple of hours just to make sure in case it seeps some finish out.
Any concern about the rag then?
Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Now, once this is fully dry, let's say the next day, you can come back, do a little bit of steel wool or a high grit abrasive, give it a nice rub down, burnish it, and you could apply a second coat or a third coat. You can kind of keep going with it or start to mix and match your different types here if you want to. But again, there is more information on that on the website. You can bring the camera up. So really good stuff. I'll do the other side of this later. It is an oil, and as these oils dry, the process as they cure creates heat. All right, so you probably have heard this before if you've been woodworking for a little while. So these rags need to be disposed of properly. The worst thing you could do is bunch them up and throw them over in the corner because shops have burned down by doing that. So be very careful with these. Take the rag, put it in a single layer. I like to put it on concrete, away from things. If you have a driveway or something outside, put it outside. Just get a rock, put a rock on it so it doesn't blow away, and let it dry. Once it's fully dry and crumply and you can tell it's no longer tacky or wet, then you can dispose of it in a regular garbage can. Some people like to put them in water, not paper towels obviously, but if you were using a cotton rag, you might use water. I'm not a fan of that either because it makes it wet. It makes this small bit of waste into a bucket of waste. So I'd rather just let this thing dry and then throw it away on its own. I find that much better. So this pizza peel video, I should put the link in the show notes. Maybe somebody can throw the link in the chat room too. This was a fun build, and it needs some finish on the other side. But
You even had a recipe.
yeah, we put the tomato pie recipe on there, right? That was delicious. All right, so that over there. That was a joke. You should have seen that coming. All right, I'm gonna put this on the flow. All right, so we do have one more thing for gearing up. New product to show you. You guys like sanding, right? Who doesn't like sanding? Everyone does. Did you guys see my new hand plane? It's a Black & Decker. That's right. All right, so I got some samples of some pretty interesting sandpaper that I thought I would show you and tell you all about. Epic Wood is a company that makes some very cool two-sided sandpaper. So I have a bunch of samples here. Let me show it to you. I could use you over here, Nicole.
Okay. There's somebody that has a question about the finish.
Question about the finish? All right. Hit me with it, man.
Are you seeing what I'm sending you?
No. He. Again.
Is there a difference between
I'm logging
tried
in
and
now.
true versus general finish, solid finish?
Oh, yes. That's a great question.
It's from
Is there,
Aaron.
from who?
From Aaron.
That happens once in a while. There's a slow leak in the compressor. Let me go turn that off.
Aaron Patchett.
Hey, it's a real shop, folks. This isn't just the stage. Okay,
Patchen asked.
Aaron. Aaron asked the question, is there a difference between tried and true and General Finish's salad bowl finish? Yeah, there's a big difference. General Finish's salad bowl finish is pretty much the same as Armor Seal or Seal-A-Cell, probably the same as Seal-A-Cell. It's basically a diluted varnish. So you still have the volatile compounds in there, it's still got mineral spirits in there, and it dries to a film just like any other polyurethane would. This is a pure oil, so big difference in application method of that salad bowl finish too. Because it's a varnish, it's going to tack up and dry very quickly, so you don't have the option to just rub it in and let it sit for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour. You can't do that with varnish. It's going to tack up and be a problem. So you really are applying salad bowl finish like you would apply a thinned polyurethane. So it's a very different product. Okay, so I do have my chat open now. Okay. So let's get back to this sandpaper. So Epic Wood, like I said, I got these samples. Now, it's sandpaper, right? So it's one of those things that it's hard to get too excited about. But what was interesting to me was that this is two-sided sandpaper. Hey, Nicole?
Yes.
Just get a close-up of these on the bench.
Look like a deck of cards.
It does, doesn't it? All right. So two-sided sandpaper. So each one of these pieces, look at it, double-sided. It has the grit printed on the surface, which is always a pet peeve of anybody who cuts their sandpaper into small pieces like this for hand sanding. It's always a pain because you usually inevitably wind up with a section that doesn't have the print on it, so you have to figure out what grit you've got. So it takes care of that nicely. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, about 8 of these would make up a single sheet of regular sandpaper, right? And the idea behind them is these are just made for hand sanding right out of the gate. The idea is this extra grit on the other side is not only giving you another sanding surface, but it's giving you something that helps you grip. And I know if you've ever used just regular sandpaper, a lot of times you wind up folding it in half and you get a little bit of that extra grip so that it doesn't slide too much under your fingers. So this is something that gives you a lot of grip and makes it very easy to sand just about any contour or any surface you need to. Right? So it's a pretty compelling product. It is more expensive though. I did a little bit of the math on this, comparing it to a Norton sandpaper. I accounted for the fact that there are 8 of these in a single sheet of paper, but it's also two-sided, and did some of the pricing, and it turns out that it's about twice as expensive as regular sandpaper. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, it's just that it is what it is. I wrote the guy who sent them to me and I said, one of my concerns about this is I still, it's nice and stiff because it's kind of got that double thickness going on. So if you need to get it into a tight space, you actually have that advantage, because my concern was, what happens when I fold it in half? Do I wind up getting a lot of grit on grit that rubs off prematurely as I try to get in? Well, the thing is, you don't need to fold it in half as much as you normally would, because it's already got a built-in certain amount of stiffness here. So I can kind of get into these little tight contours, and that's the only reason I usually fold, is because I create a nice crease, and it gives me more structural integrity to sand in those tight places. All right, so it's pretty cool. It's definitely something worth checking out. It's sandpaper, so it's like a very personal preference in what people like in sandpaper, but I definitely thought it was worth mentioning. So it's at Epic Wood, and the website is epic-wood.com. And I will be using these because they were sent to me, and they're great. Sandpaper. Somebody got a sandpaper question? All right.
Who was it?
I'm looking. Timber Dad's Workshop wants to know, what's the best sandpaper in your opinion? I don't know what the best sandpaper is. I just typically use whatever I can get from Amazon for a decent price. Most of the time it winds up being a Norton sandpaper, but there are lots of brands and lots of good quality sandpapers out there. Giving you one recommendation is going to be kind of tricky, because if you ask a chat room, you'll find like 20 different answers.
I have another sandpaper question.
Andrew asks, if I had to pick a Festool 5-inch sander, which one would you go with? I feel like this comes up in every show we do now. I would go with the ETS 150. The Rotex is good, but I don't like the balance on it. It's a little too heavy for me. Okay, let's see. Okay, I got all the ones you sent before. I'm seeing them twice. What about use the sandpaper on the wood lathe? Well, there you go. Maxwell asked about using sandpaper on the lathe. That's probably a good solution for that, depending on how you do it. Sometimes I like to take the sheets and hold them on both sides and just kind of bring it up and support the work that way if I'm doing like a spindle. But man, now that you mention that, that actually sounds like that would really come in handy, because now you've got additional grip because of the sandpaper on the second side, and those nice tight sharp corners with that extra firmness to the paper could be really good for getting that into places where regular sandpaper just might kind of buckle. So that's a good point.
Someone wanted to know about how it compared to Festool sanding squares.
I've never used Festool sanding squares, so I couldn't tell you, quite honestly. Someone else might be able to do like a price or usage comparison. I should mention that I did use a piece of that today just to give it a little preliminary treatment and see how long it lasts. I haven't used enough of it to say that it lasts better than something else, but I could tell you it performs at least as well as the Norton 3X stuff that I've got on hand. So it's definitely increased my confidence in recommending it quality-wise. Someone says, what if you make a container out of metal that can seal and not provide any more oxygen to a potential fire for the saturated rags? That was, I don't know. I don't see who that was from.
That was Maxwell.
Oh, that was Maxwell. I'm getting these mixed up. Sorry, people.
Andrew was the lathe.
Okay, my bad. Yeah, you can do that. Oxygen is the problem. So if you have a container that's sealed, you can certainly use that. My only concern, though, is letting it have exposure to air is the thing that's actually going to get it to cure and allow you to put it into the garbage can. So if somehow it manages to harden and do its thing in a sealed container, I'm not sure that that's going to happen very well. It's probably going to still stay gooey for a long time if you seal it up. All right, so there we go. Good stuff. Epic Wood two-sided sandpaper. Hey, let's give away another DVD. Let's pick a winner.
Oh, okay.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
I'll give it away to. Let's give it away to Andrew.
Give it away, give it away, give it away.
Andrew Betchman about the sandpaper. And the
Andrew Betchman. Andrew Betchman. Congratulations, my friend. You are the lucky winner of an 18th century joinery plane DVD, Building a Traditional 18th Century Joinery Plane.
Tell him I will email him through YouTube.
With Bill Anderson. Nicole will email you through YouTube to let you know you're the winner, and we'll get your address. She'll get your digits, all that good stuff. So congratulations. I can't wait to watch those. I have 2 copies of each, so I'm only giving 1 of each away today because I'd like to see them myself. All right, we're going to go into the In the Shop segment real quick where I show you what I'm working on today, and then we're going to move into our demo, which is rabbits. I want to show you how I make rabbits in the hybrid style. I could use you over here when you have a moment, Nicole. So I'll start with what's behind me. Right now, we're working on a guild project. This one is a combination of 2 projects in one, really. It's a nightstand and a chest of drawers, but they're so similar, I couldn't justify breaking them out into 2 separate projects, but I do have the plans and SketchUp plans for both projects. But the fundamental building style of each one of them, the way it goes together, and a lot of the dimensions are exactly the same. So what you see behind me is the nightstand, but excuse me, what's more interesting is the chest of drawers. Let's head over here. There you go. I got it on a furniture dolly over here. It was on the workbench. I posted it on Facebook and got a good laugh from some of the responses because it was one of those things where I assembled it. It's sitting there and I'm like, man, this is that moment where you go, I just glued something together that I'm not really sure I can get off of my bench. It's that heavy. All these 1/2-inch Babinga panels on all these sides. This thing is a beast. So this is a 5-drawer chest of drawers. Each one of the web frames is in there. I've got a little center runner. The drawers will have a nice guide where basically it's center mounted. The other chest of drawers that I have actually in my bedroom, I made in the guild before, works off of the same thing. And I don't think for something like this, I don't think I'm ever going to do anything different unless I need, full extension or something, because these work great. I don't know if you've ever, you pulled the drawers open in there.
That's your dresser, not mine.
I know, but still, you sometimes put my undies in there. It's fantastic. It has never seized up on me. It's perfectly balanced, and the drawers are perfectly centered in their position. So if you can do a center-mounted runner, highly, highly recommend it. It's all solid Babinga. Like I said, I've got those solid panels on the top, the sides, back. It's really a nice piece. So I finally got it all glued together. I still have glue squeeze out. I used epoxy because I needed the extra time, but I've got some glue squeeze out to contend with. And next up, we're working on the drawers. And I don't know if you could see it inside here, but the guy that helps me out in the shop sometimes, Scott, I sent him to pick up some maple for the internal web frame parts that you don't see because we have to put Babinga on the front. And he came back with maple, but he didn't pay extra money for this. He just got regular maple. But the boards are curly. There's a couple pieces, and it's curly maple that you can't sell as curly maple because it's only like, the last 2 inches on that 6-inch board are curly, so the rest of it isn't, and it's hard for them to sell. So this was just sold as regular maple, and I didn't have anything else to use, and time was of the essence, so I started using it. And I'm looking at the back pieces going, boy, that's a damn shame right there. That's some beautiful figured maple that no one will ever see. But you can see it, and we can enjoy it right now together. It'll be a special moment we'll share.
I'll zoom in.
Yeah, zoom in there. See if you could see those beautiful stripes.
Oh yeah, I can see them.
It's terrible, isn't it? But you know what? This guy that I'm making these for is one of my, well, not one of, he is my favorite client. He's the only person I do work for anymore. So Ed, he's a real good dude. So hey, if I'm going to put figured maple inside the chest of drawers for anyone, I'm going to do it for Ed. All right, so let's do a little demo on Rabbets. I need you at the camera this whole time. So let's, this is getting recorded. By the way, if anyone's having connection problems or whatever, just a reminder that the demo is always taken out of the live thing and re-edited and then published later on in full HD. Oh, mosquito! Get out of there! It's a giant mosquito.
Oh my God.
It's harassing Nicole right now. She likes it. Yeah, so the demos will be available, and they'll, usually they're edited really nicely, so it's a little bit easier to watch than the live version, but I do the best I can live, and then I go and doctor it up later. Okay, so you'll be able to view that probably early next week, because we have a fun-filled weekend planned. Boom. All right, so today we are here to talk about Rabbets. Rabbets are one of those fundamental woodworking joints that you just can't get too far without knowing how to execute. They come in really handy. So I've used Rabbets extensively in a project I'm working on right now with the nightstands and chest of drawers, where the panels for the top, the sides, the back are made out of solid wood, and they have to go into a groove. So in order to make everything fit and look the way I need it to look, we cut a rabbet around the perimeter. Now this is just one of my test pieces, so it's kind of jacked up a little bit, but you can see what the rabbet is. It's just a groove essentially, or a dado if you're going across the grain, that is on the edge, right? So it goes all the way to the edge and creates this little lip. And then this 1/4-inch lip can go into a 1/4-inch groove, all right? And that's exactly what I have back here on this nightstand project. So the top and the sides, here, let me bring it over there. You can see the back. Whoops. Oh, I'm like, oh man, if this thing is that twisted, I'm in trouble. If that thing was that twisted, I'd need something else to do for a living. All right. Huh?
Your book?
Not yet. All right, so what you see from this view, this is the back, but the side and top look the same. All you see is a nice flat panel, right? And it's all solid wood, so you might be wondering what's going on movement-wise. Well, that's where the rabbet comes in. So what you're seeing is this side of the panel. Okay, the rabbeted side faces the inside. And it's been cut in such a way, top to bottom, we're not so worried, right? It's across the grain this way where we have movement issues. So the panel has been cut short by 1/8 of an inch to allow movement on both sides. And then I just cut a 3/8 rabbet in both sides, which also has a little bit of a gap. So if you look inside the cabinet, you would see a little bit of gap between the leg and this part of the rabbet here. Well, actually, it would be like this, if we're keeping consistent with grain. You would see that little gap there, and that allows that panel to move. Okay, so that's just one example. Are you kidding me? So we got a compressor earlier, and now the phone. Okay. And of course, if they leave a message, we get to hear it. Alrighty. Ba-da-boom. Okay. Are we good? Are we good? We're good. Did they leave a message? Sorry about that. Okay. So that's just one use for a rabbet, but if you think in terms of just basic carcass construction for kitchen cabinets or like my shop cabinets here, you'll find rabbets really handy for, let's say, cabinet sides. How do you get that top to sit on there? Well, you don't want to just drop the top in and do a butt joint, right? You could put a rabbet into the top of that side piece and drop that top of the cabinet right into the rabbet, and then you could either, drive a couple screws or just use glue alone a lot of times to seal that thing in there. So the rabbet is a fundamental joint, so it's important to know how to make one. Now, you can make them a lot of different ways. You could use your router, you could use the table saw, several ways at the table saw alone. You can use a rabbeting bit, which is a bearing guided little doohickey that will create this sort of edge treatment on there. So tons of ways to do it. My favorite way is to use the table saw. And if any of you have read the book, Hybrid Woodworking, which I have right here, I cover this as well as grooves and dados in detail here. This might be something you want to check out. But it's a cool technique where you can do the bulk of the work at a power tool, and then we come back to the workbench to finesse it, to fit and get the perfect fit. All right, so let's head over to the table saw. We'll get set up and we'll cut a couple rabbets and then head back here to the workbench. Okay, I need a drink. All right, I got the laptop, you got the camera. What's up? Come with me. We're gonna go to the table saw. Okay. Okay. If you want, just get a close-up of the saw. Blade area. Just and try to kill that reflection if you can.
Like that?
Jeez. Sorry, guys.
The stuff you never see.
Yeah, this is what happens in between all the shots usually. Okay. So what I have in the table saw is a dado stack. This is one of those tools that basically, if you have a table saw, you kind of can't do without it. It really makes it a lot more versatile. But basically it's a bunch of saw blades stacked together in a sandwich that allows you to cut nice wide pieces instead of just a single blade width. All right, and I've got it for about 3/4 of an inch here to give me the rabbet that I'm looking for. Now, here's the key to making this cut. Do you see this little fence that I have here? This is a sacrificial surface, and what I mean by that is we're actually going to cut into it intentionally. Right? A lot of times you make a new fence, you don't want to cut into it, but this is one that I can use specifically for this task. Now, this is a really nice piece of like laminated material here. You don't need to have something that fancy. A simple piece of plywood clamped to your regular fence would work just fine. A 2x4 that's been jointed and planed so that you know it's nice and straight. You can use that too, because here's the thing. You're going to start with the blade low, and then you're going to bring the fence over so it's just over the blade. The goal is to actually bury the blade into the fence, and that's what's going to allow us to get our cut right up to the edge of the workpiece. So I'm going to make this cut real quick. I'm going to raise the blade slowly. Nicole, did you lower the volume?
Oh, I can't.
Yeah, we're going to lower the volume just to make so your ears don't bleed. Ready? Okay, so all I did, and you can see I actually had that semicircle there to begin with, so I was just, for demonstration purposes, cutting it a little deeper. But bottom line is now, part of that blade is buried inside there. So when I run a workpiece across, I should be able to get that rabbet right on the edge. It'll be nice and clean. All right, so the height, all these dimensions you're gonna need specifically for your project, depending on what you're doing. In my case, this is just an example. Yeah, it looks a little bit high. I'm gonna lower just a hair. Oh yes, very good. Okay, let's make a cut. Ready? I'm gonna turn a dust collection on for this too, so it'll be noisy. We will not bow to any sponsor. I thought that'd be funny. Yeah, honestly, some of you are probably wondering why I wouldn't use the gripper for something like this. You certainly can, but I sometimes like a good push paddle. I feel like this soft material gives me a little bit of a better grip on there, but there is no reason at all I couldn't have used the gripper. You can see it does hold it. Mine's got a little bit of dust on this layer. Sometimes I find if I get a wet rag, I can clean it off, and that'll stop it from sliding, which it wants to do sometimes. This is a little bit more reliable for that type of operation, but I do recommend yeah, I do recommend that you use some sort of push block here. And the reason is because when you're removing this much material, the momentum and the sheer force of that blade wants to cause it to lift. And it can do that at the front of the cut, at the back of the cut, in the middle of the cut. So by using a push paddle, or the gripper, you can actually apply a good even amount of weight and pressure, hopefully giving you a nice, consistent rabbet. The thing is though, the nature of these things, not all your work pieces are this small, so you may not be able to control it as well. You may have a bigger piece or a piece of plywood or something that has a little bit of a bow in it, so you may actually end up with a slightly inconsistent rabbet. And that's where the hand tools come in, so let's head back to the workbench. I'm pretty slick with my advertiser integration. I like to think I'm good.
Good.
People never even notice, you know?
Hold on.
Don't pull out my thunderbolt. We're gonna be right over there. Okay. So here's the board we just cut. And I've got another sample board here on the workbench. So let me show you the two tools that I like to use for making the adjustments here. First is a router plane. This is one of my absolute favorites. If you're a power tool enthusiast, this is probably the hand tool that you're going to relate to the best, right? Because you have the blade protruding out of the bottom of this plane. As you run it across the surface, it's at a fixed location, right? So it works a lot like a regular router. You can kind of understand what this thing is doing, and unless you tilt it in some whacked out way, you kind of can't cut too far. All right, that's the great thing about it. It's a very consistent and easy to understand tool. This is the other tool I like to use. This is my shoulder plane. And this guy is pretty unique in that the blade goes all the way to the edges here, which a lot of planes, the blade is going to stop inside the body of the plane. But the key is this one will allow me to go right up to this edge, which is critical for something like a rabbet, right? If it stopped any sooner, then you'd have a ridge at the end, which isn't going to be very helpful. So which one do you use? Well, I should mention that we would have intentionally cut this thing just a bit shy, so that if the workpiece lifted up, we'd have a little bit of extra material to remove. And at the very least, we take one complete pass or two complete passes to get this thing to fit into our groove. I like to be cautious when it comes to this stuff instead of trying to get right to the number, then overshooting, right? So we'll just put it into the bench. Important thing here is you really only need to stop at the front, but I bring the back dog in just to support it. I don't crank this thing down, because if you crank it down, you create a bow here, and that makes it difficult to plane, right? So just a little bit of pressure to immobilize it, hold it in place. So we can use this shoulder plane to do the work, and I'll just make a quick cut here. Now these can be a little tricky to balance because it is kind of an odd shaped plane, right? So it takes a little getting used to. The thing about this is it will take some of those high spots and knock them down if you know where the high spots are. So you might just take your groove, put it on there, and try to spot where the high spots are. And you go, oh, it's a little thick right here. I can't get the workpiece to go on. So let me just work this area here. And you can clean that spot up. The thing that this doesn't do is it doesn't make sure that we have an even depth all the way across. And that's what the router plane is really good at doing. So that's where you might consider using this one. So let's intentionally induce a bit of a taper here. Right, so I've got a little bit more material removed on this side than I do on this side. Well, the router plane is going to help me find that, even if I didn't know it was there. So I could just pick a spot along this rabbet here and lower the blade so that it just touches that surface. It's pretty close. So if I'm set here, I don't know for sure at this point. I mean, I do because I just did it, but you might normally not know if this is the lowest point. But you basically set it to that point and then move it along the surface and see if it starts to catch. And you can kind of move along and find all the places it starts to grab. You know you may have had the lowest point. If I start over here and go to this side, I'm going to see a gap. So it should be pretty obvious when I'm at the low point. All right, so putting pressure on the right side, my left hand is just kind of helping me move it forward, but all the downward pressure is on the right, otherwise I tip. I'm just pushing forward and I start to see the blade catching. There we go, look at that. You see, so there was a bit of a high point in. So if I wanted to, I could then loosen it up, bring it down a little bit more, repeat. Didn't take very much off. There we go. Now it's going all the way across. Okay, so what's great about this is it's going to ensure that the depth of this rabbet is even all the way across. But I do find that I get better, smoother results with the shoulder plane. So, you know, if I even it out and then maybe take one more pass, I get a nice shaving off of there, and this is nice and smooth. So you're not really doing a whole lot of work to this board. If you are, then you got to adjust your table saw to make a deeper cut. The goal is not to work more for the sake of using hand tools. It's to use the hand tools quickly and make 1 or 2 passes to get this guy to fit perfectly, and you just sweeten the fit. You're not looking to do a ton of extra work. Ready? So either one of these tools will do the job, but you can see fundamentally they work differently. So this guy, the router plane, is going to help me fix some problems. This one will help me fix them too, but I got to know a little bit more about that surface before I use it, because I might make the problem a little bit worse if I'm not careful enough with it. But this, for me, is a very quick way to end up with really a precise, perfect fit. Now, I'll tell you what, if I just go power tools and I don't do this, typically what I wind up having to do is raise the blade a little bit so that all of my rabbets fit in the grooves. What that inevitably does is it results in some of those rabbets not fitting quite as snug as I want them to, because I had to go for the sort of, what would you call it, the lowest common denominator. Boy, I'm gassy. Too much Creole cooking. Whoa. But yeah, so I lost my train of thought completely. Jeez. Yeah, I don't know what I was saying. Anyways, but both of those tools I think are very handy for doing this process. But usually, I get pretty close with the table saw. I just double check with the router plane and then a couple passes with the shoulder plane. I just find that to be pretty quick. A lot of folks, question whether or not incorporating hand tools is worthwhile because they see the hand tools as being very slow. But the reality is, if it's done properly, you start to find the places where your power tools can let you down. And sometimes it's just the pure physics of the situation that result in a joint that's not completely consistent. But man, those hand tools can bail you out of those situations. And I gotta say, there is something fun about taking some nice, sweet shavings off, getting the absolute perfect dialed in fit, and just knowing that you're at the sweet spot. And sometimes with a power tool, you may find a sweet spot, but you also may go right past it. That's the problem with power tools. So yeah, that's the basics of creating Rabbets, the hybrid style. All right, so we can probably do a little bit of Q&A real quick.
I already sent you one question.
Okay.
From Neil.
Neil Southwood. How do I sharpen it? Sharpen what? We did a couple different tools here. Shoulder plane is sharpened like any other plane. It's just a more narrow blade. Typically has a even more narrower back. Kind of think of it like it looks like the shape of a shovel, kind of, because we got that thin part that fans out to a spade almost. The router plane has some pretty specific sharpening methods. It's a little bit difficult to explain in this format. I'm not set up to do the sharpening. I will tell you that it is something that I actually covered in my book in a decent amount of detail. Router planes can be tricky to sharpen because, look at it. That little guy in there. That's a teeny tiny blade. So a lot of times you are putting your sharpening stone near the end of a workbench, flipping the deal upside down, and then sharpening the bevel, honing your bevel that way. You can also let's see, if you have two boards that are the same thickness, you can kind of do a neat trick to sharpen the underside is, put them like this and have your sharpening stone between them and run it this way over your sharpening medium. And that's a decent way to get a nice consistent edge on the bottom as well. Now the Veritas version has a removable screw on here, so you can actually take these heads off and put different ones on. So I believe they have this little sharpening implement that you can use, that you can attach, that gives you a nice long working surface, so you can kind of sharpen that bevel without doing the edge of the bench trick, which is kind of nice. But a lot of times these router planes have that, it's permanently set up. You don't have the option to remove the head, and it's L-shaped. So your only option to sharpen that bevel is to hang it off of an edge. Aaron Patchen, Mark, have you ever been to Japan? Where do you get your Asian style inspiration? During your uncle's urn video, you said more of an Asian style of building. You know what? I wish I could really answer that in an accurate and meaningful way. It's a very good question. I often wonder that myself. I think a lot of it came into being. There's two things that I did. When I was a kid, I was really into martial arts, and I always had a lot of respect for the history behind a lot of that.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles doesn't count.
Then I watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and boy, did that have an impact. But yeah, so I was always kind of interested in Asian cultures, and specifically Japanese culture has always been compelling to me. So when I got into the world of furniture, it was just some of the Asian designs really spoke to me. I saw a lot of Asian influence stuff that David Marks did, and later on I found out about Green and Green. And Green and Green furniture is kind of like your American arts and crafts to mission style meets Eastern flair. So if you give it a little bit of an Asian flair, you end up with Green and Green. So it's just something visually, I think, that appeals to me. And I haven't ever been to Japan, but honestly, there's nothing more deep and meaningful than that, other than the fact that I'm intrigued by it. I like the designs, and I like curves. I mean, a lot of it just may happen to be that I like to have certain types of curves in my work. Those curves happen to be prominent in Asian designs and Japanese architecture. It's probably the worst answer to a question I ever gave. All right. MN Bakes. I guess that's, geez. Can't
It's
tell.
in our chat room.
Hard to tell who the name is, that's all.
Just MM Banks.
When you send your table saw blade to forest for sharpening, how clean do you worry about getting it, if at all? You know what? As long as I get the main pitch and resin off of it, I just do one of my standard cleanings. I'm not even sure that matters. It feels like a good, courteous thing to do. So I'll do my standard pitch and resin removal thing, which is basically drop it into a bucket of the pitch and resin remover, let it soak for 5 minutes, come back with some sort of an abrasive pad or a brush, clean the teeth, dry it up, put it in a box and send it. Alex G, what project do you see after the gaming table? I'm not sure what projects could you see after. Brad. Oh, that's someone else's name, Brad?
No, so it's Alex.
Alex.
It's,
Someone asked me this I think on Facebook, and my answer was that I try not to think about my life more than a year ahead of time. Like, I got so much on my plate between now and then that it's impossible. So I know we do need to pick a project after the gaming table, but we're actually talking about winter of 2016 at that point, and my brain's just not there yet. So I have no idea. I have no earthly idea. What's your go-to finishing company if you have one? I use Sherwin-Williams a lot for my lacquers, almost exclusively. There's a lot of great lacquer companies out there, but it's just easy for me to get. I get good results. I like it. General Finishes is a go-to company that I use for my wiping varnish type finishes. I use a lot of Minwax products, frankly. I use their Wipe on Poly. I use their Danish oil, teak oil. And hey, tried and true. That's good stuff, right? I use tried and true on my workbench, by the way, and I don't know, maybe I just didn't use it right. I wasn't completely happy with it for the workbench, and I thought I might be better off using something else for that. And and I don't even remember what product, which one of the three I used, but I'm really anxious to use this on my current projects if I can get Ed to agree to it. I want to see how this stuff responds on furniture. A workbench is just, it's a whole different thing. It's going to get the crap beat out of it. So maybe my expectations were misplaced. So I'm willing to give it another shot because I do love the idea of a pure oil like this, a polymerized oil with nothing extra added to it. Sounds very appealing to me. Do I have the, this, is it Timber Dads or no, David Cortez? So is the name above the question?
Yes.
Okay. David Cortez, do you have the same sharpening method as you did in your sharpening video several years back? Yes, I do. Exact same thing. And I don't know which one you saw. I know there were a couple out there, but there is an updated version of that. Is it a couple years old already? Maybe that's the one he's talking about. Shoot. But yeah, I haven't changed. I still use Shapton stones primarily, a DMT low grit plate. I think they call it a duo plate or something, duo sharp, whatever. But the big wide plate, use that for flattening, and I use that for a lot of the rough work if I need to really rework a bevel. Timber Dad's Workshop. Which plane would you recommend first, the router or the shoulder plane? Ooh, that's a good question. I think I might recommend the router plane. If you're saying first, to me that implies that you probably don't have a ton of experience or a ton of other tools in the shop. So I really think the router plane is an icebreaker for the modern woodworker who is entering this from a power tool perspective. It allows you to operate it in a way that is very power tool-like, and it's not as easy as some of the other hand tools to go too far or to make mistakes on. So for me, I think the router plane is one of the most versatile, useful joinery planes that are out there, especially if you're using it as an accessory to your power tools. Christopher Brassfield, why the router and shoulder planes and not mention the rabbiting block plane? I didn't give it any thought. I don't know. A rabbiting block plane is a lot like a shoulder plane, but it's, like a block plane in stature, but you can see the blade goes out to the edges. Part of the reason is because on an operation like this, I don't find it as good as a shoulder plane. We're only talking about a small rabbet. It's less than 3/4 of an inch. The body on this guy is a lot wider. So for me personally, if I'm going to pick one up, I'd rather use the top heavy one that's kind of intended for that. It's got a lot of extra weight, and I just find it a little bit more reliable and easy to use. That isn't to say that you can't use a rabbiting block plane like this, but personally, I just find the results to be a little bit better with a shoulder plane, but this is certainly just another tool that you can use to accomplish the same thing. In fact, when there's a chapter in the book that goes over what tools I recommend first. And one of the ones that I think confuses some people is the rabbiting block plane. It's one that can be redundant if you already have other things, but if you don't have anything at all, it can actually be a good multi-purpose tool. And that's why I recommend it in the book, because if you don't have some of these other things, a rabbiting block plane can also serve as a block plane, right? So if you're gonna get a block plane and money is tight, that's probably a good one to get because it does act like a shoulder plane and allows you to get right up to the edge, but you can also use it for just general block plane tasks. So I find it very versatile, and I think it's not many people who make them at this point. Lee Nielsen is one of the big names there. But if you're getting picky about which one feels better in hand for certain operations, which is kind of the next level question of tool choice, I actually like the way the shoulder plane feels when doing work like this. New York Mets fan 007. Any possibility of appearing on a reality show such as Framework, either as a contestant or a guest judge? Ha! That's funny. Very quick history. I don't know how many people actually care about this, but Framework, when they first were looking for contestants, contacted me and asked me if I was interested. I said, no, thank you. I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. And in that environment, I would not do very well. I don't do well under pressure. I also don't do well with people telling me what to do. and I don't think I would be a great contestant in there. So I said no thank you, but I appreciate it. They later came back and said, would you be interested in being a judge? That was a different situation. That was something where the pressure isn't really on me, it's on other people, and all I have to do is critique people's furniture. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I interviewed for it and did a whole Skype conversation and all that stuff. And then I had to do a background check or something too, didn't I? Yes, I had a whole background check deal, and I actually thought I might get it. And I was freaking out because it was going to happen, the filming was going to happen right when another guild build was starting. So the timing was just really, really poor. It was actually during the Krenov cabinet build. And it just never came to fruition, so I was able to finish my guild project and moved on. As it turns out, the guy that got the job, who I guess was it was probably between him and like 2 other people, and I was one of those 2 other people. But Brandon Gore, the guy who's one of the judges, did get the job. I think they got the right man for the job, I can tell you that much. He's way better as a judge than I would ever be. And he's a real good ambassador of the show. I think he's doing a lot of work to promote it and promote, not just woodworkers, but makers in general. I think he's doing some pretty good things. So yeah, who knows? I mean, as a guest judge, maybe, here's the thing, I also got to see the hammering the show took in social media. And I would not look forward to how people would talk about me if I were to do something like that. I don't know, maybe I have enough friends out in the world that it wouldn't go that way, but I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit nervous. So if I ever did anything like that, it would be with a great deal of reservation about the effect it might have. Paul, is that an ocarina on the wall from The Legend of Zelda? Yes, Paul, it is. And I will do you the favor of playing a little song for you. This is a little song I wrote called Oh, My Sweet Nicole. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It's a very frantic song. It's high energy. That's good, right?
Let me see if I remember how to play it.
It is an ocarina, and it actually works. You gonna play it?
I'm gonna see if I remember. Because I remember I knew one of the songs.
That's a good job. Good job. You're definitely better than I was. Yeah, so sometimes when I'm in the shop and I'm working, I like to jam on my ocarina.
I used to have a song memorized, but I can't remember.
Andrew McInnes, is that a new tattoo? Someone on Facebook asked me if that's it might have been the guild. If it's a new tattoo, or did I just let Mateo draw on my arm? I was like, you son of a... but yeah, it is a new tattoo. And you know what? Just because tattoos are difficult to see from a distance, I will show it to you. I don't know, what's the best angle here? You see? It's bamboo. And there's a lot of it. So if you don't like tattoos, you're going to hate my show from now on. It still needs to get some touch up here. I've got a little bit of in the shading. It's difficult to make out the bottoms. But it's bamboo. And I've got 3 stalks here. The middle stalk is intertwined in the other 2 stalks, and it represents my family. So the 2 outside stalks are Nicole and I, and the one that's weaved between us is Mateo. Because I think tattoos should have some kind of meaning to them if you're going to put them on your body. Kevin asks, what happens to most of the prototypes that you build for projects? Do you sell them or give them away? Well, here's the thing, Kevin. I don't build prototypes. I don't. All of my projects that I build are purposeful. They're either for me, for a family member, or in this case, for a client. So there are no prototypes in my life. There may be a day where I can live life at a pace that allows me to prototype. But these days, I'm just kind of run and gun from one project to the next. But all of the pieces that I do build either go in our house, they go to my mom, they go to Nicole's mom, they go to friends that we have, both of them, and or someone who I'm actually making something for. Andrew asks, if you had to make any changes to your workbench, what would they be? Nothing. Here's the thing. I've had a good amount of time with workbenches and lackluster workbenches to know what I wanted in a bench. And then I read, before I built this one, I read Chris Schwarz's Workbenches book, which was something that really helped me further define what I could do with a workbench that would not paint me into a corner, that would give me a versatile workbench that I could add on or do things with in the future. So between just experience and getting some good, old-fashioned knowledge from someone more experienced than me, from Chris, I found that the split top Rubo it just hit the mark for everything that I needed a workbench to do. So the honest answer to the question is absolutely nothing. I'm perfectly happy with my bench. I think it was designed by someone much smarter than I am with much more experience, and that has served me well so far. So there's nothing I'd change about it. Is the only difference between a rabbet and a dado the position of the piece, edge versus through the material, or does grain orientation play? That's WRP in the chat room. Rabbets are a little bit different. Here, let me show you on this piece. Basically what we're talking about is dados, rabbets, and grooves, right? Shappy. So your rabbet can be across the grain. Oops. I might as well record this. So someone asked about the difference between rabbets and whether or not they can be impacted by grain direction, and it's basically terminology. So there's rabbets, dados, and grooves. So a rabbet essentially is a groove or dado, depending on which direction you're going in. But a rabbet is not grain dependent. So whether I'm going across the grain, it's a rabbet. If I'm going with the grain, I'd still call it a rabbet. It's dados and grooves where terminology gets a little bit trickier. If you're going across the grain, like this, that's a dado. So you're making a groove. See, here's the problem. A groove is a very generic term, but when you get into woodworking specifics, a groove is something that goes with the grain, right? So your dado is a groove that goes across the grain, and a groove is a groove that goes with the grain, if that makes sense. So if you take either a groove like this and put it near the edge, that's when it becomes a rabbet. And if you take a dado like this and put it near the edge, then it becomes a rabbet again, okay? So rabbets don't care. There's a t-shirt idea. Can someone draw that up too? Like a Scott Johnson piece of artwork would be great. Rabbets don't care, dados across the grain, grooves with the grain. But like I said, further complicated by the fact that the word groove in just layman's terms could be with the grain or against the grain, it wouldn't matter. But in woodworking terms, it does. It's a good question. The hooker won. Wait, the hooker T won. The hooker T1. The hooker one? Where's the pink boa from the original shop? Where did that boa end up?
I don't know.
That maybe just didn't make the move.
It's somewhere.
No, I know it's not in the shop. You can't miss it if it's in the room. Oh man. Mark, I haven't seen you do any wood turning videos. Do you just not post them, or do you not do turning projects? Well, you're not looking hard enough, John, because we actually do have 2 videos out of my 250 some odd videos. No, actually more. In the refinishing series, I did turning to actually reshape and...
Vampire stake?
Yeah, so there's the vampire stake, that one, and turning a tool handle.
And the little 10-minute top. You didn't do that.
I didn't do that, but there's a David Martin. He's just talking about me.
Yeah.
So we have a couple other turning videos from other people. So yeah, I've got about 3 videos of me turning out there. You see me turn as much as I turn. I'm a furniture builder, so turning is something that only comes up when my furniture requires it. Now, if you see some of the guild projects, you'll see more of the lathe, but a lot of times it won't necessarily be a big feature. For instance, the Morris chair project needed turned pegs to go into the back to support that movable back. I turned those. I have the jigs up there. They're too high to get them now, but we did a tilt top table which had turned post on it, and we did 2 different versions of that. So there's plenty of turning going on. You just might not necessarily see it on the free site. And the reason is just because I build furniture, and in the grand scheme of things, there's not as much turning in your world of just sort of drawers and cabinets. Several mentions of the book. Sounds like a giveaway opportunity. Troy is conducting his own show and would like us to do a giveaway. Well, let's see. Trying to make sure I didn't do anything stupid to this copy. How about I sign this one and we give this away to somebody right now?
Sure.
Here you go.
You want to pick somebody that's asked the question? Or do you want me to pick one?
Get someone that's asked the question. And
WRP.
hold on. So we're going to give away 2 books. This one right here, you saw me doing in person. This is yours, Troy. It says, best of luck with your woodworking. Your hero, Mark. It doesn't say that. It just says my name. But here you go, Troy, for asking that question. You got the gumption to ask, you get a free book. Maybe you already have it, I don't know. But there's your copy. Congratulations, Troy. And Nicole, why don't you pick a second one?
WRP in our chat room.
WRP in the chat room, the Wood Whisperer chat room. I wish I knew the gentleman's or lady's name.
I'm not sure either.
Okay. Well, Nicole will get in touch with you to get your contact information. And Troy, Nicole, can you hunt down Troy Campbell?
Yep.
We'll get you both a copy of the book. How about that? Never say I didn't do anything for you guys. I'm bending over backwards here. Not really. We're actually running low on books. They're on back order. We still have some, but we placed an order and Pop Woodworking is on back order. Lee Hart, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Will the gaming table have a foam/speed cloth surface for card play? I have to look into it. I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but I do think it calls for some sort of a soft surface. I mean, even if you're just doing, role-playing games or putting, I envision my son using it all the time to assemble puzzles. That's something where it might be nice to have a good surface comparable to what you would use for playing cards. I don't know much about that, so it's something that needs to be researched between now and then. If you have any suggestions, shoot me an email. I'd love to hear it. WRP, Speak of the Devil, who just won a book.
That's the second question.
So when doing the piece in the demo, were 2 of the cuts dados and 2 rabbets, and then as 2 go across the grain, albeit, I don't know what you're asking me. That's getting confusing. I'm sorry. There were no dados or rabbets, there were no dados or grooves. Both of those were just rabbet cuts. They happened to be rabbets that were going with the grain and not rabbets that were against the grain. I would have had to use my crosscut sled to safely make that cut on such a short end grain piece here, but it would have been a rabbet either way. Okay, Alex asks, he says, I got the large shoulder plane, and he says he finds it a little bit tippy and wants to know if the medium shoulder plane or small shoulder plane might be a little bit better. I'll be honest with you, I don't use the medium shoulder plane anymore now that I have the large, because I actually find it to be even worse. You can really wrap your hands around it, and you can see mine's, I've had it for a while, it's pretty well used, but I haven't touched it in a long time because the size and heft of this allows it to sit more comfortably, and it still takes a little bit of practice to get it to travel the right way. But I find that it's so heavy, and I've got a nice wide registration surface that, to me, the largest one, feels the most comfortable. The smaller ones are just a little bit lighter, a little smaller, so I find them actually a little bit more wobbly in hand. So I don't know that it may just be my hands versus your hands. I don't know that you're going to find any great improvement with the medium. If you could try one to see, it might be worth trying, but for me, I like the large. And you know what? Practice your grip. What's great about it is if you've got this handle that can move, sometimes it's just the position of your body or the position of your hands. And if you're, trying to push too much with your arms, what you may find that happens is as your arms are pushing out, your angle of approach with your arms is changing the whole time, right? So you have to then adjust your pressure to keep this thing nice and straight because you're changing the angle. Whereas if you have it set up in a position where you could just kind of hold your arms fixed and you can just walk it through, now look at that. My arms aren't moving at all. And I'm also dancing quite nicely. Nicole would be impressed if she could see me. But you're walking it through and you're keeping your hands and your arms in a nice fixed position. So that may be something to practice to give you a little bit better results there. But I do find that if I push with my hands or with my arms too much, it does get a little bit wobblier. Brad Matheson, where do you buy your lumber from? 2 places here in Phoenix. I get most of my domestics and plywood from Spellman Hardwoods, and Woodworker Source is where I get the exotics. Boy, we got a lot of questions tonight. Jeez, you guys are on fire. Adrian Higgins, what's your favorite hardwood to work with? I actually don't have one, Adrian. I love all hardwoods.
You have favorites.
Not really. There are woods that when they come along in a project, I know I'm not going to have to worry about the wood so much. Like when I'm working with Babinga, it's very dense, very hard, very heavy. This batch that I got was probably one of the first batches of Babinga that was a little more unstable than I was prepared for. But when I work with something like walnut or cherry usually, I know I'm in for a pretty predictable experience. So it's not that it's my favorite hardwood to work with, but it's the one that I don't have to worry about as much. So the closest answer I could give you is probably cherry, just because it's like very forgiving. But I really enjoy working with mahogany, as long as it's good stock. Some walnut stock is fun to work with. But to me, a lot of times the visual results of my work make the process of working it more enjoyable. I love working with Babinga, not so much because I enjoy working with a really dense exotic hardwood that costs a lot of money, it's because I love the way it looks. So the whole process of bringing it from raw boards into, a beautiful structure, to me, is part of what makes me love that experience. Maxwell Goodacre. Sounds like the kind of guy you would want to buy a house from. Like a good real estate agent. Buy your house from Maxwell Goodacre. You can trust him. Do you have woodworking projects that you don't video? Not anymore. Everything I do these days gets filmed. I do have the urge to do that sometimes, but I kick myself after it's done. Like, why couldn't I have just filmed it? For instance, memorial box for my uncle. My uncle passes away. I've got a couple days to get this thing done. Even then, I couldn't walk away from the camera. I'm like, look, I'm building this thing. I don't have to talk to the camera. I'm not in a mindset that I'm comfortable talking. But I could still film it and get something usable. I don't know what I'm going to do with the footage, but I can do something with it in the future. And I have it if I need it. And I did wind up using it, and it was one of the most well-received videos we've ever done, partly because of the heart behind it, but it was a video that had no talking and was just like boom, 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 project done. So even in that case, when I probably should have just said, screw the camera, I didn't. It's just something that I can't do anymore because I can't get enough video out there. Between the Guild and the free site, I just can't put out enough video. So it's very hard for me to build and not film it. Luke, I'm moving to Phoenix next year. Where's a good local place to get lumber and tools? Well, I just mentioned a couple of those places to buy lumber. Tools locally, I got to tell you, Woodworker Source does sell tools. There's Timber Machinery. Where are they? I forget where they are. Woodcraft has tools. But I'll be honest with you, man, I don't buy tools locally. It's nice to support the local guys if you can, but I buy my stuff online. I get my best prices that way. It's delivered to my door easily enough. But if you want to support the locals, there's, even Rockler does too. Rockler, Woodcraft, Woodworker Source, and Timber Machinery. are kind of like the big four that I know about. Andrew Betchman asked, any new shop machinery coming to your shop soon? No, I'm pretty set at this point. I still need to get this shop done. There's things I still need to build to have it at full productive level, and I just haven't had time to do that. So no machines, at least that I know of. Sometimes companies come out with new machines, and I find them thrust upon me, which is, it's a terrible way to live. Terrible way to live. But I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. Scott McCutcheon. Mark, is there a place we can get the hardware for the bench if we want to build our own? Yeah, of course. All the hardware on this workbench, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, is from Benchcrafted. The whole thing is actually Benchcrafted's design for the bench that we just kind of made a couple small modifications, but it's built around Benchcrafted hardware. So if you go to benchcrafted.com, I believe, I think it's that simple, Benchcrafted has all the hardware. It ain't cheap, so be prepared. Grab your wallet.
Grab your butt.
Hold on to your butts. Adiphanus, are glue joint router bits necessary or just plain glue joints good enough? Plain glue joints are always good enough if it's long grain to long grain. Thought my mic moved. Because that glue bond is really strong. As long as you have a good milled surface and good clamping pressure, it's fine. A glue line bit is kind of nice because it adds a little bit of reinforcement to the joint even though you don't need it, but most importantly it helps you with alignment. So whenever I'm gluing up panels, I just did it with the panels on this project. I like to use dominoes. So I've got a couple of joints here. Where are they? One. I think there's two. Two joints in this panel, and there are dominoes in there. And I use dominoes for that same thing, not because I want a stronger joint, but because I want to make sure that when I pop these things together, I don't have to worry about them sliding past one another and making more work for myself. So if you have a glue joint router bit, you may find that useful for creating a sort of tongue and groove joint that allows you to get better results. Strength-wise, I just don't think it's not really going to matter in the end. I'm just going to keep rolling with these. We'll take a few more, but I mean...
Just keep coming.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the questions, but at some point we will have... I'll lose my voice, and we have to go relieve my mom, who's watching Mateo. Actually, she's probably sitting on the couch by now. Okay, N. Thompson, 17. Mark, do you have any ideas for a woodworking project for a fire department or a firefighter? Wow. How about go to, there's a couple of toy websites. It might be very cool to make a toy fire truck. There's a lot of detail in those little trucks, but man, they could be really, really cool. So Wood Magazine, go to their store, Wood Store or something like that on their website. They have a lot of toy plans. And there's probably other sites out there that specialize in toy plans. I don't know who you're giving it to specifically and whether this would be like goofy or not, but I think it would be really cool to try to make a fire truck with, somehow get their whatever identifying numbers. I don't know anything about fire departments, but whatever number that identifies who they are or that particular station, maybe get something like that on the fire truck. I think that could be pretty cool. Or just give them a burnt piece of wood.
No, that's terrible.
What? I think that's fine.
Terrible.
Okay, P.S. Any tips on how to continue milling from there for boards? They are about 10 inches in diameter.
I'm not sure what that means.
I don't understand that question at all. How does a board have a diameter? Any tips? Yeah, I'm sorry, P.S. I don't really understand the question. Ed Draper. Mark, what do you think of HVLP converters for air compressors? What about electric? Is turbine the only way to go? You know what? There's nothing wrong with using a conversion gun for HVLP. If you've got a strong enough compressor that can handle it, the conversion gun allows you to to shoot a good amount of finish. There's some really good conversion guns out there. If you want to get into that, I recommend chatting up Jeff Jewett over at Homestead Finishing. He sells the guns, and he could recommend something that works well with your compressor and can also tell you if the compressor is good enough to do what it needs to do for the conversion gun. I don't have a conversion gun. Everything I have is turbines, just because I never had a good compressor. I now have a good compressor, but I have the turbine set up, so I never really, again, have no reason to deal with a conversion gun. So yeah, nothing wrong at all with conversion guns. You can get great results. Turbines are nice because it's a nice self-contained unit. You don't have to worry about the compressor, and you can kind of move the turbine wherever you want. You could take it on site if you have a job site to work at, and they work great, if you get a decent one. Not too expensive. If you look at the price of a good compressor plus the conversion gun and compare that to a decent turbine setup, you're going to have less invested in the turbine setup. Then again, you don't have a compressor. Compressors can be used for other things too, so there's a value proposition there as well. But turbines are great. If you don't have a powerful enough compressor, do not hesitate to get a good quality turbine. Erlex still makes some decent units, but my favorite by far at this point is the Fuji line.
Which we'll be giving away another one.
Are we giving one away pretty soon?
Fuji.
Sweet. Timber Dad's Workshop, those are not Narex chisels, so I don't have an opinion.
What are they?
Marples. I have Japanese chisels and Marples chisels behind me. Nathan Conaway asks, do you prefer to do glue ups to get the size you need, or would you rather buy bigger rough stock like 12/4 versus laminated and glued up? Without a doubt, if I can get the stock in the thickness I need right off the bat, always the better way to go. Visually, there's a continuous grain, there's no glue lines to worry about. A lot of times when I'm gluing something up that thick, the reason I'm doing it is because I'm going to cut a curve. So think in terms of like a table with compound curved legs. To do that cut, I have to cut through my glue line. So if I have a lamination, the results of that are not going to be nearly as good as if that were a solid piece to start with. So there may be, depending on what you're doing, there may be justification for doing a lamination. It can be handy sometimes, especially if you're doing a big piece like, for instance, like the workbench legs. If you have a big mortise, how cool is it to take your 2 8/4 pieces of stock, basically hog out on one side a little bit of stock, hog out on the other side, and then put them together, and now you have your mortise perfectly centered and ready to go. So you can do cool things with laminations, but it just depends on the visual aspects of the project. But for me, if I can get a thicker piece, totally worth it. All right, you could stop adding
Yeah,
now.
I'm done.
Do you prefer SketchUp or AutoCAD? That's from Jason Michael. I don't use AutoCAD at all, so I'm 100% into SketchUp at this point. I haven't touched a CAD program in years and wouldn't know what to do with it. Sean Rubino, how's it going, dude? Any more inlay work in future projects? Yeah, I think, honestly, I think I want to do marquetry before I do inlay again.
What about your tattoo?
Oh, yeah, thanks. Marquetry allows you to get a lot more detail, I think, just because you can get really sharp corners. Inlay's a little bit trickier because you're kind of limited by the diameter of your router bit that you're using, so you tend to have more blunted edges. So depending on the project and how you're doing it and what the image is, marquetry is a lot of times a better choice. So I'd like to delve a little bit more. I haven't done marquetry in years. I have a bed project coming up that is the bed for our bedroom. And it's going to be like a platform bed with storage. That's one that I really thought that I'd like to incorporate some kind of marquetry in. So if I've got a nice laminated veneered panel in the back, that might be a good opportunity for marquetry. I look at inlay too, but again, it just depends on the material I'm using and the complexity of the design. And one thing that I did do that's kind of cool is the tattoo artist that did this, he had the drawing sitting there when I was done, and I said, can I have that? Because I would like to take that home and eventually inlay that same exact design. Inlay or use marquetry to create it, which would be pretty cool. Timber Dad says needs to get the green shop apron back in the shop. Really want one. You know what? I'm sorry, but that's probably not going to happen. Here's the thing. The ordering on that just was weird. It's a long story, but all we were able to get were the canvas colored ones, and that's the natural ones. Unfortunately, that's what we're stuck with. But we can get a bucket of RIT dye and dump it in there. I mean, really, if you want to.
Mateo would love to paint on those.
There you go. I can give you a Mateo original. We'll give him a green marker. But yeah, you could probably dye it, but I know that's not as fun, but it can probably be done. Vic! What's up, dude? Nicole, has MARC used sliding dovetails for a large tabletop to hold down to the base?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Vic asked you.
I know.
He must think you know. Vic, I haven't done that yet. I saw that, and I mentioned it in a recent Wood Talk, and I saw a video a long time ago using that methodology. I think it's great. I think that's a killer way to do it, but it's really obviously going to be for, like for instance, the gaming table that's coming up. That's more like your classic dining room table where something like that isn't going to work. It's really something you got to use for your big timber projects. Even like think in terms of like a live edge top or something like that. That's when I could see you using that kind of technique. You just need big, fat, large timbers to pull that off. So who knows? Maybe someday I'll have a chance to do that, but haven't done it yet, and nothing currently in the works, but I'd like to. Trying to get to the bottom of this list. What do you think is the best way to get the purple color to pop and stay that way? You know, that's newbie woodworker. You know, I've heard a lot of people fret over Purple Heart, and I guess I've never really had much of a problem with it. Usually when you start working it and sanding it and all that stuff, it kind of gets a little bit gray. But as you bring it up to final grit and you apply finish, nature kind of takes its course and it starts to look purpley and beautiful. Purpley. So there's really not a whole lot that I have ever had to do to Purple Heart to make it do that. It's just a matter of giving it some time and finishing it and doing finish prep like you would with any other wood. And you should notice as it sits for a little while, that purple hue will come back. But it's really the finish getting on it that kind of allows it to become like that next level purple color. Now, staying that way, let's just get that out of the way. The wood's going to do what it's going to do. So you can coat it with whatever you want and put it wherever you want. If it's in a low light environment with a decent film finish, it might stay a little bit more purple than it might otherwise, but ultimately it's going to get a little bit more brownish, you know, and it's not going to have as vivid of a purple color. And that's just the nature of the beast. But it will always have some purple hue to it, as long as it isn't like sun bleached or something like that. Adam wants to know, what's the best way to refinish my cedar garage door? They're presently stained and varnished and have been neglected, so they're peeling badly. I live in Canada, need to protect it against harsh elements. What would be the easiest way to maintain yet protect? You know, that's a problem, Adam, because you know there are certain environmental conditions that are just a torture test for wood. Really cold, snowy, wet environments and really hot environments like mine. So you put a film finish on there, you don't really have that many options. You put the film finish on, that's going to protect it, but eventually the film will likely fail. So you have to probably, in the case of something like that, you may be looking at applying fresh coats every year or two to maintain it. If you wait until the finish cracks and you sort of lose the integrity of the finish, it's tough to maintain at that point. So you have to kind of keep adding layers to prevent it from getting to that point where it fails. And that's just a lot of work, you know? So what I would recommend, I guess at this point, without knowing a whole lot more about it, I still think Epiphanes is a good finish for just about any climate, but it is a thick film finish. So you gotta be prepared, you know, for what that entails, and you probably will have to apply more over time. What I'd also do is ask people who are local. I don't live in a cold environment, so this isn't something I think about a whole lot and have a lot of personal experience with. So ask around, see if you could find some local people who have good looking garage doors. Maybe stop and ask them what they're using and see if there's any local you know, there just might be common knowledge things that, since I live in the desert, I'm not aware of.
The next one is the PS. This is the full.
Oh, I see. You only got half the question.
Yeah.
PS asked, I had some trees fall down, cut them into logs. Cut them into logs with the chainsaw and sealed the ends. Any tips for how to continue milling from there to boards? They're about 10 inches in diameter. Well, first of all, I don't do that. I don't know much about the process of producing wood from logs. That's kind of a Shannon question. That's why we have Shannon on Wood Talk. But I would think that your goal would be to get it out of log form pretty soon. Try to get it slabbed up into whatever thickness you want, so that these boards can start to dry and stabilize. I'm not sure how much more, like how stable it stays in log form, depending on how long you leave it there. The fact that it's sealed on the ends is good. That's going to slow down the rapid loss of moisture, which is what causes all that checking. But ultimately, the sooner you get it slabbed up, the sooner you're going to be able to work with it, and the more stable the material is going to be. So if you can, get somebody who has a sawmill who can slab it up for you. And then you want to sticker and stack it in a place that's dry and gets good air circulation. You still want to seal up those ends. I know some people use paint. There's a product out there called Anchor Seal, I believe, and it's a very waxy stuff that you kind of just paint onto the ends. And just as long as it has that good air circulation and you seal up the ends, with any luck, they will stay flat mostly and dry slow enough that they don't induce all kinds of checking and cracks. But that's just, do some research. That's not something that I'm really well versed in. I like to be honest when I don't know what I'm talking about. Derek Kennedy asks, what's your best advice for a new woodworking YouTuber? Well, that's a tricky question, because are you looking for advice as a YouTuber, or do you want advice as a woodworker? Because I know the trend of there's a lot of great woodworking channels on YouTube. It does seem to be that some people's goal is to be a woodworking YouTuber. I'm not sure I understand that goal. YouTube is a distribution tool like any other video service out there, and if you want to be a woodworker who publishes your stuff online, you got to be on YouTube. But it almost seems like there is a sort of internal goal outside of woodworking that involves, being this, like you said, the way you worded it, a woodworking YouTuber. So I don't know. It's tough to give you advice because I'm not sure what your goals are. Do you want to be a good YouTuber, or do you want to be a good woodworker, or do you want to make good woodworking videos? A lot of times, woodworking videos on YouTube are not really about woodworking. They are. They show projects being built, but they show them very quickly. But they're not really intended so much for anything more than your casual woodworking audience. So I think your goal should be to find out where your place is and all that. Do you want to do a fast-forwarded 3-minute video of a build that took you 2 weeks? Or do you want to do a 15-minute video or a 20-minute video showing you a little bit more, or showing your audience a little bit more detail and teaching them the process of woodworking? And you just have to decide where you want to be on that scale. So yeah, it's a little tough to give advice on that, but. Am I saying hi to Vinny? Sean's kid, Vinny? Vinny! What's up? What's up, Vinny? Well, Vinny, why are you still up? They're an hour behind us.
Well, we're going to join them this weekend.
We are?
Because of daylight savings.
Oh, I thought like we're going over to Sean's house or something. I'm like, no one told.
The time zone.
We're going to have a play date. I hope you don't mind, Sean. We're coming over. Let Vinny and Mateo play. So it's not that late for them. Okay, Vinny, you could still be up. But tell your dad it's bedtime. Go to bed, Sean. All right. Anything else?
Someone asked if we're going to Woodworking America.
We're not.
I don't think they heard me.
Oh, Nicole asked if we're going to Woodworking in America. We're not. And I'll tell you why in a little while.
And that's it? Vinny says okay.
He's very agreeable. If I told my son to go to bed, not tired. I'm not tired.
Yeah.
All right.
That was a lot of questions, and they're still coming.
Wow,
So I was trying to keep up. I probably missed a few. Don't take it personal. I just
that was the most questions we've ever dealt with.
2 chat rooms.
Yeah.
And trying to equally pull questions.
No, that's great. You did a fantastic job. Thank you everybody for being here and giving me something to do all night.
Yeah.
The questions were fantastic. I really appreciate it. My voice just doesn't last that long. I start to get a little bit hoarse, but yeah. So thank you. This was a fantastic live session.
It was great.
And thank you, Nicole. High five.
Boom.
And we'll see you in about a month. You know what? The time may change, right? The clocks change before the next session.
Yeah, but I think we might. Didn't we talk about sticking with the time? Because
No.
Arizona doesn't change.
Yeah.
So right now we're mountain.
We will stick with the time.
Yeah.
But that means it's different for everybody else.
Oh.
It would be an hour later.
Oh.
So what we're going to do in Arizona, we do it at 6 o'clock our time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. When the clocks change, we'll do this session at 6 p.m. our time, same time because that works really well for us, which will then be 9 p.m. Eastern and 6 p.m., same as us, Pacific. And I find that a lot of people on the West Coast, at 5 o'clock, they're just getting home from work. It's actually a tough time. And I find that that is a better balance for them. So 6 o'clock West, 9 o'clock East, and I think that's a good compromise. So we will continue doing it at 6, and it'll change for everybody else. But we'll put the time in the calendar. But yeah, we'll see you next month.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody. I need to wet my whistle again.
Bye.
See ya. Go to bed, Vinny. How come, what's his name? Is it Giovanni, the little man? The younger one? Where's he? Why doesn't he watch The Wood Whisperer? Vinny, talk to your brother. All right, I'm going to stop the stream. Thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful night.